Good morning.
David Lee Scales, good morning.
Are you 2 minutes late because you were setting up your new selfie tripod?
I wasn't. Oh, I saw it though. Thank you so much. I'm
What the
excited to
heck?
get it. I got to
What the
get it
heck?
set up. I
I
came
know.
in late. I came in late last night and saw it and thought, oh, look at how great that is, and totally forgot about it until right now.
I figured for sure when you said I'm 2 minutes late that you waited until 9 o'clock to open the package and we're like
Ah,
scrambling to get it done.
I should have. I don't know what I was thinking.
All good. How are you doing?
Good. Just got the daughter set up on her math that she's theoretically doing while I podcast. How much do you think gets done?
Well, I mean, how much does she do normally when we're doing this? Is she actually good about it?
I think it depends. I think
Okay.
we're into fractions. I don't know if they're that interesting this morning.
Gotcha. I'm gonna say 10% gets done.
I'm gonna go with 20. I'm gonna really think she's gonna give it her best effort and do 20%.
When I was a student, I would use any excuse possible to not do my work. I mean, and I would pass classes with B's because I never did the homework, but I would get good grades on the tests. But it's like I probably didn't even learn how to do homework until I got to college.
The I love the amount of effort and work that I observe with amongst the savages of going into avoiding doing work is like it's 20 times the work of avoiding the work than just doing the dang thing.
Let that be a lesson for life.
Yep, it is so true. Just put your head down, get it done. Oh man,
In
I'm
the,
hard, kids.
in this room that I'm in right now, I have so many books, magazines, stuff that I've been meaning to throw away or move to the garage that has been here for months.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get done today either.
Hell no. I'm riddled with anxiety every time I see it. And it could just get done in like 5 minutes, you know? Well, we got a number of things that happened in the surf world this week, but the first thing on my mind is the Oscars.
Oh my goodness.
I've gotten so many memes about the Oscars, and everybody, like 20 people DM me that night, and they're just like, I could not think about Chaz and Ashton fighting or slapping when I saw that go down.
It's really good. It's really, really good. It's funny.
Are
I
you
thought the same thing.
are you team Will Smith or team Chris Rock?
Well, here's the funny thing about it. I was both people, right? I was the one who
Totally.
freaked out on Ashton for speaking ill of my wife, and then I got slapped by Ashton. So I was both people.
You were the victim in both scenarios. You were
Yeah.
not. You somehow. Yeah, that is amazing. I know that it was a combination of both incidents that happened at the Oscars, the first encounter with Ashton and the second one, but I didn't realize that you were the victim on both.
I was on both ends.
So
it's really funny. Yeah.
well,
I am team Chris Rock, I suppose. I totally get clearly Will's ire at when he looked over at Jada and saw her upset. He was put in a real pickle, right? Like anyone with I don't know, anyone that they love or anyone with somebody they love. You see they're hurt by somebody else's actions. Now, what do? You're on the spot, right? Especially if you are a husband, or I don't know, especially, but if you are a husband or a boyfriend or a man, it's incumbent upon you to act or look like a sissy, right? Or a wimp. Is sissy a canceled word?
not yet.
Okay.
It's on the verge.
So he had to act at that point. Now, the way he acted was weird and cringeworthy, right? That was the problem with the whole thing. Not that. So what he should have done, and I suppose when I jumped across the coffee table in front at Ashton, it was only you in the room, right? I wasn't on stage with an audience. If I was on stage with an audience, well, that wasn't as bad as because I didn't retreat. Like we were pulled apart by you, right? So if Will would have stayed up there and actually tried to fight him, it was the going up and just slapping unprovoked was the weird thing, right? If Smith would have gotten his face and had to be pulled off by security, that would have looked better, I think, than the slap and retreat to seat. That seemed weird.
No, I disagree. I felt entirely differently than you did
What
on all of it. Like the joke wasn't offensive in any way.
it doesn't,
And
I mean, neither what was Ashton was saying about.
correct. What Ashton was saying about you at the time was your wife pays your bills.
Yeah.
So that's more a joke. That's about you. That's an
Yeah.
insult to you. It's not an insult to Cersei.
Sure.
And yeah, Will, the joke about Jada was not even, first of all, I don't even think it was an alopecia joke. I don't know if Chris Rock even knows about her alopecia background. And even if it was, it's still not that offensive. We hear more offensive jokes every year. I heard one earlier that evening when Amy Schumer said to Leonardo DiCaprio, a joke about him having young girlfriends.
But it's true, but it doesn't. Once Will looks at Jada and she sees that she's upset, well, I mean, what does he do? You elbow her and say, come on, shake it off. I suppose that would be an option.
Well, she was, first of all, it's the person in the audience is often they make that response of like, oh, got me below the belt or something like that. That doesn't warrant going and assaulting somebody, you know, and it could just be a feigned response anyways to add punch to the joke, to punch up Chris's joke for him, like, ooh, you really got me there, good one.
But Will would have known. I mean, he would have been reading the reaction correctly.
Well, that's I think what it all comes down to is that their relationship and all of the issues. Jada's come out and spoken about them having an open relationship. She's openly been dating and having sex with a young man who's the age of their son. So this is all happening in Will's face, and Will has looked like a sucker all year long in the public eye. And so he, I think, was hypersensitive and probably primed, waiting for a joke to come his way. He didn't interpret in that moment that the joke actually wasn't about any of that other stuff that the media has been talking about. He just felt the joke come and he saw red and he responded. And
I love that. I totally love that. I was team Will all the way up until the way, like, he should have like really tried to fight him up there.
Well, that would have been more interesting for sure. But I think if Chris dodged it, then there would have been a follow-up punch. Or if Chris fought back, then there would have been a follow-up punch. At which point there would have been pandemonium, because it's not like the Oscars has security on hand right there. You know?
It must have. Like but that
not
would have
for
been
that.
If it would have gone for a big old brawl, that's like the slap and retreat is the weird thing.
See, the slap and retreat was Will not throwing a knockout punch. And even the slap, the reason I thought it was faked for the first 10 minutes, we rewatched it over and over, because Will actually leans back when he slaps. He doesn't lean into it, you know, and the guy played Ali, so he probably learned how to fight. But the fact that he pulled back made me think there was some restraint. He wasn't trying to knock Chris out. Sure. He was trying to emasculate him.
Yeah,
you know,
completely.
But so I thought Will was entirely out of line, because comedians make more offensive jokes all the time. This wasn't even offensive in my mind. If Jada was offended by it, then she's the sissy. She's the one being sensitive. The fact that Will feels a need to defend Jada also represents a bygone era of hypermasculinity. Like Jada's fully able to defend herself. She could probably throw a better punch than Will, to be honest. And so I don't know why Will, and by the way, she's already kind of pushed Will to the side in their relationship, which I think is why he's feeling overly needing to defend her.
I totally hear you, but I love seeing red, and I love using defense of somebody else as an excuse to see red and just pop right off. I'm all there. And I still do think so. Got a story that happened, I guess, before that, right before the Oscars. Wife and I pedaled our bikes for a little lunch date. I think Hemi was at ballet, probably. Went to a Lucadia spot, and there was a guy sitting in there. Got our food, sat down. There was a guy sitting in there with a Trump 2024 hat, right? He was like, I think on a FaceTime or something, talking loudly, whatever. It just bugged wife so much, right? She's just like, it just gets under her skin. Finally, she says, okay, let's move. I got to move tables. I was like, yeah, oh, cool. So move tables. When she passes him, I guess went first, and she passed him, and he was FaceTiming with his daughter or something, who said to him, I don't know why you wear that hat in public. You're going to get, you're just asking for it or something like that. And wife muttered, yeah, because it's gross, but didn't linger, just went passing. So then guy came up when he was done with his call to our table and said, excuse me, did you say something? And then Cersei lit into him about, you don't know how your hat makes people, people like me feel, whatever. Like, we got no problem. Trump can do what he wants to do. That guy can wear a Trump hat. I don't care. But like, and then he acted all offended though. Like, how dare you? This is my right and all that, and whatever to her. And that's when I was like, saw red and jumped up and just got right in his face and almost fought a 70-year-old man for, how dare you wear something that is going to get a reaction from people. And when it does get the reaction, to go approach them and to shame them for the reaction that you were going for to begin with. So I was just classic blind red. Fuck you, old man. Take your fucking hat, throw in the shade. I was in his face barking like a crazy person. And that felt so good.
So how did he respond to that?
He ran away as quickly as he could. Once I went in psycho mode, then he just like you crazy people, and went running off.
I feel like you would feel the exact opposite way if this wasn't Cersei.
No, because like so what I was particularly mad about is if people are looking for a reaction and then get the reaction they're looking for, and then feign that they weren't looking for it, and feign that the person reacting is like somehow irrational, then fuck you. Like, you're going for a reaction, you got a reaction. So don't act like, then double down on, oh, you're a shameful person because you reacted to the thing that I was trying to get you to react on. Like, yeah, that's what drove me crazy. That would drive me crazy in anything. That would drive me crazy in a person wearing a Bernie Sanders hat at a Trump rally who was like, what, or whoever Trump people dislike, Hillary Clinton hat, going up, then acting all like, whoa, you guys are crazy. Like, yeah, fuck you were, that's what you're asking for.
All of that, going that many steps down the road of rationalization is already, I would just walk away from the interaction because it's already in crazy town. That to me isn't an offense. You would have to say something directly that is an assault on Lauren's character for me to then go to that seeing red stage.
But if Lauren was sitting there and was offended by something, even if it didn't, like the Trump hat, again, did not offend me, right? I am not offended by Trump merchandise or by Trump even as a person or as any of it. Like, I am, who cares? But if Lauren saw something that was irrational to you, and this goes straight back to the Will Smith thing, I think even if Jada's offense was irrational, that's where I was team Will of him doing something. I just think he did the wrong thing. But if Lauren was offended, even if it was irrational, you wouldn't like punch somebody in the mouth just because that's what you had to do. Not
if she was being irrational.
Yeah.
I mean, I've punched somebody in the mouth before and it was justified in my mind. You know what I mean? But that, to me, that if she's just upset for some other reason that day and taking it out on this person who wore the wrong hat, then I would be able to mitigate, I'd be able to assess that and negotiate it. Back to the Will Smith thing, what bothered me, like my actual visceral response, because we were watching it live, by the way, don't open your phone and scroll social media when you're watching something online, because we weren't watching it live. We paused it once or twice, so we were 20 minutes behind. And Lauren's scrolling her phone the whole time. She sees something on her phone, gets super wide-eyed, looks at me, and then closes her phone and puts it down as if like, oh shoot.
You didn't see it.
I'm like, yeah, what happened? And I knew it was bigger than just finding out who won the Oscar for Best Picture. Yeah. She like saw something and she's like, nothing. I didn't see anything. Just keep push play. So I knew that something was coming. But when it came, the way that I felt was offended. Like it offended my sensibility. Like, we're watching something that is dignified and supposed to be high-minded. It's related to art. And so to not only see a casual assault take place, but for it to really be kind of normalized because nobody did anything about it. There was no security guard. We didn't see any retribution take place that whole evening. You know, it's not like we saw the security guards come out, remove
He won the
Will.
award. I mean, he
Yeah,
literally
exactly.
won
Even
the award.
worse.
Yeah.
Even worse. So we're continually exposed to him. All of that felt very offensive to me, of just like, wow, where are we at in society where, like, okay, freedom of speech is legal. So Chris Rock is legally entitled to say whatever he wants to say. Assault is not legal. So we can kind of end the conversation there. But beyond that, kind of morally, the joke wasn't offensive. Will completely overreacted to the joke. And so all of it to me just felt like a reflection of where we're at with society that is not a great place. You know, it's an erosion.
Did you feel like John Pizell in Florida at the?
Yes, I did. So the question everybody really wants to know is, how does it feel to be slapped like that?
Like, yeah, by how Chris felt. I mean, it's like silly, right? Like, it feels silly is how it feels. Like, I'm sure Chris felt silly. And back to, I guess, I get that whatever, the assault is not cool and all that, blah, 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 blah. But the real hero, I think, is Chris Rock. I mean, I love Will for seeing red. Didn't do it right. Chris Rock, though, refusing to press charges. And then I read a story that he actually, I can't remember which host he apologized to, but Chris apologized to one of the hosts after, to Wanda Sykes, and said, this was supposed to be your night, not the host, Wanda Sykes, comedian, said, this was supposed to be your night, and now everyone's going to be talking about this, and I am sorry. So Chris took responsibility for the whole thing. That's what I like. Good on him, right? Nobody should press charges, obviously. Like, that's what made me crazy about the whole dumb Ashton thing, is that Ashton actually went to the police. I don't think the police should get involved. The Academy Award making a big deal about it, blah, blah, just let it go. If Chris doesn't want to do anything about it, then it's done, right?
True.
Well, let a man be a man. And if he wants to, again, like, I love the idea of challenging somebody to a duel, right? Like, is what Will kind of, and should have done it off camera. He should have, like, told Jada, I got this. And then at a party, like,
agreed. That's
taken
fine
Chris
with me.
out back and whooped him up, and then leak that to the tabloids that Will Smith,
100%.
beat up Chris Rock later.
That's fully fine with me.
But being slapped, back to how it feels silly. And I'm sure Chris Rock, like, his reaction of like, whoa, like, that's how it felt. It feels silly. It doesn't feel like getting punched. Like,
he was very confused by it, but he wasn't jarred.
No, and like, getting punched, I think, puts you into fight mode. Getting slapped feels like, what are you doing? That's what I felt. And it just felt weird and silly.
Getting slapped also, I think, I rewatched the video footage that I shot of you getting slapped by Ashton, and I rewatched the Will Smith thing. It looks like the person who gets slapped is assessing like, whoa, did that just happen? But it's not bad enough for me to throw a punch here. So where do I go from here? Do I argue with them more? Do I slap them back? Do I give them a backhanded slap? Like, what's the appropriate response? And really, you both were at a loss to find the appropriate response. I think that Chris is fully capable of defending himself. And he has one of the largest microphones in the world. Yeah. And he went on stage, I guess, 2 nights ago for his first, it was already a scheduled stop on his tour that he's doing right now. And he said, for any of you who are here to hear me talk about what happened at the Oscars, you're going to have to wait for it. I haven't fully processed the situation yet. And so I'm just going to do my routine and we'll revisit this later. I'll have more to say later. And I really feel like Chris Rock, it would be shocking to me if he took the high road and never addressed this publicly, because this is pure gold. This is pure gold for a comedian. And Chris Rock, his income in the next year, 2-3 years, is going to triple what it would have been, because he will sell out every single comedy show that he schedules. I bet you Netflix will pay him double what they were going to pay him for his next special. I bet you any film producer in Hollywood will greenlight his whatever project he wants to do next, because we're all waiting with bated breath. And he is so smart and savvy that he could paint Will however he wants to paint Will, and that will be the way that Will look for the next 5 to 10 years. He has the paintbrush to make Will look however he wants.
Which I know Chris Rock here, but is what I got to do also with Ashton, right? I like the person who gets slapped gets to tell the story, I feel. And if you fight back, that is the story. I mean, I guess the instigator, yeah, whatever. But like Chris has a lot more room to play now, and it's going to be a lot funnier.
Totally. I cannot wait for it. He's
Yeah.
so smart too. This is kind of like the two people that you wouldn't do this to would be Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, because they're
Yeah.
kind of the most, they're willing to be edgy. They're willing to say what it is, and they're smart enough.
The problem is, I would imagine for Chris, I didn't like Ashton, and so I could just go toy with Ashton's image for the next 2 years. I would imagine that Chris Rock likes Will Smith.
Who knows? I would imagine there's not a comedian on the planet who likes Will Smith at this point.
Sure, but he's like, I mean, I think, you know, maybe respects Will Smith.
I have no idea, dude.
You'd have to think he does. I mean, Will Smith's body of work, what Will Smith has done, you know, Will Smith became a mega superstar from a kind of silly rapper to a mega huge Hollywood star, which is respectable.
It's respectable, but it doesn't mean I like him. Like, I don't necessarily like him before or after this, you know, like I watched that film King Richard, and it was like, it's good. I don't care.
Yeah. But you respect him.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't respect Ashton either, so it was easy for me to go play. Where if you respect or like someone, it's harder to go have fun at their expense, even if it's totally, you know, hey, you can do it. He can do whatever he wants. You're exactly right. The way Chris Rock could basically write Will Smith's entire story, where it'll be the way people think about Will Smith from now on, how Chris Rock decides to paint him. And if you respect somebody, hard to just paint them in a crap light.
Well, it depends how enlightened Chris is, I suppose, because his, like, Will Smith is in a bad place in his life.
Yeah,
clearly. And he was in a bad place that night. And so if Chris can remove himself from this situation and just have grace for somebody who is having a really bad night and in a bad spot in their life, and just not vilify them, even though you have every right to, that would be a pretty amazing thing. But I do think that Chris has an obligation to a much bigger thing here, which is, like I said, normalizing casual violence needs to be vilified.
It doesn't really. Let's be honest.
Totally.
Men used to fight. I think I disagree,
but not at the Oscar ceremony for something that was petty. Like, I agree with you. It's fine if it was afterwards at a party without cameras. Will Smith did this for the cameras. He did it to assert his dominance and assert his husbandness in the relationship that he's been emasculated in. That's all this was about. This was about ego and him protecting himself. It wasn't even about him protecting Jada, as far as I'm concerned. So I agree with you. It's okay to take to fisticuffs if something is justified. This was never justified.
But even it just doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna say there's no wrong time. Our whole society has become way too soft and litigious, right? So a man went up and slapped a man, whether it was deserved or not. And Chris reacted the way he reacted, which is, I think, the right way. Is like, okay, who cares? Like, I got slapped. It looked silly. I was made to look silly. I was part of a silly scene. But to, like, his responsibility to, like, vilify, if he starts talking about domestic violence on stage or something, like,
what about this? What about this angle then? Black males in America have been plagued with a stereotype of being violent, and that's why they are more incarcerated than white males are. And so Chris can say, hey, Will, we've elevated the image of Black males in America, and we want to maintain that standard for other people to aspire to. You set us back 20 years. We're wearing tuxedos. We're creating art. We're getting paid millions of dollars. And you made this so petty over something that was unjustified that it sets us back 20 years. That's a
I think
fair argument.
I think they should both point their fingers at white men and say, look at you, sissy little white men. You wouldn't have done this. You want to know why? You're all babies. You're all soft. You all have lawyers, and that's what you do. Go to the cops. Huh.
Well, Chris avoided that too because he didn't go to the cops. You know what I mean?
That's why I think they thought, hey, we had an argument. Sure, it was on stage. Sure, we were in tuxedos. Big deal. We handled it like men-ish. Like,
well, the other obligation that Chris has to the larger cause is protecting comedians' freedom of speech. Like if a comedian got bum rushed on the stage every time that they made fun of a heckler or offended somebody, comedy would cease to exist.
I mean, and Will Smith should start a fund for beleaguered comedians. That's on him. But I don't think that, or yeah, Will Smith should have to pay for security for a couple of comedians or something like that. Like, oh, great and good. But I think Chris Rock, by laughing it off and making it less serious, not making it this pinnacle moment, is what would serve everyone best.
It wouldn't serve his sales the best, and
if he made a funny joke about it, and it was like a funny thing in his routine, right? But once he gets serious about it, I mean, I wonder what Dave Chappelle thinks about it. That would be a take that I would be interested in hearing.
For sure. I can't wait for it. What I would have loved to have seen is for Chris to have the presence of mind to start doubling down as soon as Will got back to his seat and just been like, oh my gosh, I mean, that hurt, but I'm just glad Jada didn't hit me or something like that. Like if he doubled down and then seeing Will go from red to just full meltdown mode, because then he either has to rush the stage.
Oh, he would have. I mean, I think at that moment he would have.
Yeah, that would have been amazing, but for Chris is a comedian. For him to continue to be a comedian in that moment, I think would have been amazing, but it's understandable that he didn't. Do you want to hear the funniest meme that I saw after that?
Yes.
It showed the after party, Will with Jada in her bald-headed beauty, bronzed skin, holding his statue, and the Oscar statue. And it said, in order to calm Will Smith down after the incident, they gave him a statue of Jada Pinkett Smith.
That's good.
Pretty solid.
That's good.
Well, anyways, you wrote an article about Kelly Slater being there, and it said, analysis, world's greatest surfer Kelly Slater outshined half-pipe aficionados Tony Hawk and Shaun White at Oscars, delivering poignant performance bordering on self-aware, ! Explain what you mean. Kelly was your favorite performer of those three that night?
I thought Kelly looked, between Shaun and Tony, I think they all did pretty well, let's be honest, right? I mean, totally. those like canned lines are hard to deliver.
They really are.
With any kind of panache, but I thought Kelly looked the best out of the three. Like looked the best, delivered his lines the best, was most sort of I don't know, looked best in that moment. Like I thought he did well, Kelly Slater.
I thought they all looked like they were wearing their dad's suit to prom.
I mean, that's totally true. Like they were all but kind of anybody who's not an actor or wearing tuxes somewhat regularly, like a businessman who goes to black tie, like anytime I'm ever at a tux event, everybody, 9 out of 10 men are like, look like that, look like they're wearing their dad's suit to prom.
I understand if you're buying something off the rack and it's not tailored to you, that you do look that way. But those guys, I mean, they can afford whatever they want and they can get it tailored and they're handsome. Why did they look that way?
I'll tell you exactly why. You can never wear anything that you have to sometimes, obviously, black tie and whatnot. But if you're thinking about what you're wearing, it is going to come off like you are wearing your dad's suit, right? Like, because you are aware of it and your awareness, I think, exudes out, right? And so the best, I can't remember. I've toyed with along, I was getting older, like, okay, what's the style move, right? And I thought for a long time about just going full-time suit, right? Wearing a suit all the time. I couldn't do it yet, because I would always be aware that I am wearing a suit, right? Like perpetually, I am wearing a suit, I am wearing a suit is like, and that comes out, except for last couple trips through the Italian Dolomites, etc., etc. I just happened to have a suit for some reason and wore it the entire time because it was warm and it was like the perfect warmth for everywhere we were. So I wore a suit basically every day, and that's all I needed. Now it's not in my head anymore. Oh, you're wearing a suit. It's just like, oh, this is the most functional piece of clothing for the environment.
Right. Well, when I went to that wedding that we questioned whether I should wear a bow tie to or not, that suit was so comfortable. Like when in my youth, whenever I had to dress up for church or whatever it was, I was annoyed because those clothes were the least comfortable. They were itchy, whatever. That suit that I wore that night was like, I could wear this thing all day, every day. So comfy.
A good suit is the most comfortable piece of clothing. I mean, a good suit in like between 50 degrees and even colder, between 30 degrees and 70 degrees is the greatest piece of clothing you can have.
I was surprised. But why did Kelly, again, didn't that look ill-fitted on him? And he's handsome. Like, I feel like Tony Hawk always looks like a skateboarder no matter what you put him in. So he's doing what you said. He doesn't feel comfortable, so he doesn't look comfortable. But Kelly, he's handsome. He should be able to pull off a tux. But for some reason, that just looked ill-fitted.
I think Kelly has a really, really, really wacky body. In truth, like Kelly's body, you see his face and you think he's like this ideal handsome guy. I think Kelly's body is like abnormally weird. And so putting him in clothes that other people wear that you can like, you know, have a real one-to-one comparison, he will look weird in anything because he is actually weird. His body is weird.
And yet he's the only person who could pull off a white wetsuit.
Yeah. I mean, weird because he's weird. I think he'll throw weird in because he's weird, and then that takes away from the weird.
And the short John too.
Exactly.
Like the tank top with short wetsuit, he pulls that off beautifully.
Because I think that he probably wears that weird stuff because his body's so dang weird.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's the only one who could pull it off. It's like made for a weird body.
Yep, man, strange.
Yeah.
Well, it was a wonderful night at the Oscars. Before the slap heard around the world, I told Lauren, I was like, this is the most entertaining Oscars I've ever seen. It's produced entirely differently. Like the in memoriam stuff, they had a live, not only the live band, but like the full live singers on stage, 30 of them singing. And little details like that just made it so much more interesting. I was entertained the entire time.
It got routinely panned though by the critics.
Did it?
They said it was the worst ever. They
Screw
said
the
it was
critics.
It was janky. It was out of, like, obviously even without the slap, it was like, none of the critics liked any of it. They said
Fully
this
disagree.
This is the death knell for the Oscars.
No, fully disagree. I sat there entertained the entire time. Often I'm leaving the room or switching channels to something else. I thought it was the best. The greatest gift that the surfing world has received in months now is a viral clip that came across the transom this week entitled Sailor Karen.
Oh my goodness.
What an absolute gift. I'm going to read your headline and then I will play for you the audio of Sailor Karen shouting. But your headline says, Furious Karen absolutely skewers beach parking lot gaggle who dare ask if she is a surfer. Am I a surfer? I'm a sailor, bitch. I bet you don't even know how wind works. Here's straight from the Karen's mouth.
Then get out of here. I already told you once. Get the fuck out. Get in your car, drive the fuck away, and don't ever come back here again. Not once.
Have you ever been to this beach before?
Have I ever been to this beach before? Have you ever been to churches or lowers or middles? Bet you don't even know how to go left. Bet you don't even know. Bet you could never do it. Bet you could never.
Are you a surfer?
Am I a surfer? I'm a sailor, bitch. But you couldn't sail, huh? You can't sail. You don't even know how the wind works.
You're gonna sail around here?
Oh my God. So
it is absolute genius.
It's insane. So do you know the backstory?
I know a little bit. I heard through, because it was disappeared off various meme accounts, right? The clip was up and then it was down.
Yeah.
And I wondered why. and heard that she possibly suffers from some mental illness. And so the fun making was inappropriate, but I thought she was the stinking hero. And so I kept all mine up because I was like, I'm Team Sailor Karen, man. Like, those parking lot rats were for sure asking for it. They were like egging her on or doing something dumb, and totally asked for that beatdown.
What was the backstory? Like, why did she pop off anyways? Were they fighting over a parking spot?
And I have no idea about any of that. I just got only the backstory why it was disappeared from certain places.
Well, we have, I'm sure we have listeners who know exactly the backstory. So if you would like to call in, we would love to hear the backstory. If you want to email in so that we don't play your call, that's fine too. But I'm dying to know. And I was not privy to any of that information, nor do I know if that's even true about mental health. But I had the thought, which was, Karens are free game. We're allowed to discuss Karens, make fun of Karens, but we might identify what they're experiencing as mental illness in the future. I feel like they are plagued by a certain, I don't know, a modern malady. Do you need to take a break?
2 seconds.
Yeah. Go.
Call mama. What? And did you write your report, your summary? Yeah, and make it long, not just short, not just one sentence. Okay.
I feel like Karens are plagued by some modern malady that maybe will be revealed in the future, where it's like, kind of like your cousin Danny when you talked about in Blessed Are the Bank Robbers, where the white picket fence, everything that your parents and your grandparents told you to plan your life around, the Karen has found themselves in this situation, married to a fat husband who they don't love, who works 60 hours a week, and they've gone stir crazy. And then they go to the store, they go out into the real world, and the people around them aren't honoring what their parents and their grandparents told them would be honored if they went and lived this life. And so they're having a mental collapse. And we're making fun of it right now. It's all fair game. But will it be identified as some form of actual breakdown or mental illness in the next 5 or 10 years? You know,
I totally would imagine that because you're exactly right. It's open season on Karens, right?
Yeah.
That nobody dare ever, if you like pick out a Karen and just make fun, nobody comes to the Karen's defense ever, right? The Karen is the universal bad guy, where I think in 5 or 10 years, people are going to look back on that moment and say, well, that was really rude. Like, you know, in certain of those instances, yes, it was totally like, whatever. The one Karen who, the Central Park bird watcher who was black, and she, like, there's certain of the instances are very clearly completely out of line and, you know, racially motivated or whatever, where Karen is wrong, but not all of them. Like, I'm sure rarely do you see the whole backstory like this one, right? I have no idea. Maybe those guys totally did something awful that set her off, and, you know, her rage was totally justified, but then the clip is only the second of rage, right? So I think we're going to look back and think, wow, we were pretty dang rude to essentially to white women during this, to white middle-class women during this era, that were like unnecessarily rude.
In the way that surfers have been on the cutting edge of environmentalism and, you know, organic eating, health food, yoga, things like that, maybe surfers are on the cutting edge of having dimensionality, assessing dimensionality to Karens, because this is the first time I've seen somebody see an outright Karen and then think, well, there could be mental illness in addition to the Karenism. And so we should delete that. We should consider that and be cognizant of it.
Surfers leading on the bleeding edge.
Crazy.
We should do some, along with our Kelly Block Me t-shirts. We should do some, I got some Kelly Block Me t-shirts coming, by the way.
He told me they should be there tomorrow, right?
Yeah, very excited.
Sweet.
But also, we should do Surfers for Karen support t-shirt, like Surfers for Karens.
Karen Support Network.
Yeah.
So another email that came through to you and I which I had never seen this before, or it was actually a DM. Conspiracy. We're entering the category of conspiracy theory right now. What do you attribute all of Van's success to? For decades now, across genres, across sports, bleeding way past sports into middle America. So hardcore skaters wear Vans, middle America kids wear Vans, teachers wear Vans, they wear Vans backpacks, t-shirts, shoes, everyone wears Vans. So this person sent a theory. If you look at the logo, the V with the line that goes over the letters ANS, from a math standpoint, this is Vans is the square root. It's a square root sign. So Vans is the answer to everything. ANS is answer with a square root over it. Vans is the answer to everything. And he went further by saying the soles of the shoe, if you flip it over, it's the Star of David. The logo is the square root of all answers. And if you throw the Vans shoe, it always lands upright. And I've seen this proven time and time again. There's a whole video series on the internet about it. You just, like a cat, you throw Vans upwards, flip it around as many times as you want from whatever height. When it lands, it'll bounce a little bit, but it always lands on its sole upright. What say you?
I say, I haven't heard such great subliminal message talk since 5th grade, when like backmasking and stuff was in vogue, when you would play Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven backwards and hear satanic messages. This makes me so happy. I love a good subliminal message run, and this is a hot one.
I love it.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yep, it's true.
So I don't think that Vans is part of the Illuminati and there's any master plan or anything like that. But what I do really consider is like the show I Love Lucy or the show Everybody Loves Raymond. You say the name of the show and it becomes a mantra. I love Lucy. I love Lucy. I love Lucy. It just becomes this mantra that it seeps into your soul through osmosis, and you end up loving Lucy. It's no coincidence that two of the highest grossing shows of all time have their title structured that way. And we know in marketing and advertising that they do employ this stuff all the time, and it's super effective. So I'm wondering if Vans was that savvy early on to say, we're going to just put these emblems, iconography on every product we make, and then that will help the trajectory and it'll seep into the zeitgeist, you know?
I wish they made the shoes shaped like a curvy woman, like Coca-Cola bottles, instead of the square root of everything. But look at, I mean,
was that the design of the bottle?
Oh, of course. The Coke bottle? You don't know that?
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a curvy lady.
Wow.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Who doesn't want that?
I don't know. Some people don't. For some reason they switched to a girthy can. Some people want that, you know. Well, who am I to say what people want? Do you want to go to some listener line calls?
Let's do it.
Okay.
David, Chaz, commenting on the recent barrel or nah about destroying your board at the end of a heat. You had some classic examples with Kelly stomping his board and Jordy throwing a punch at his board, but you left out the all-time great Freddie P smashing his board on the rock in Australia. That's one of my favorite clips. Still makes me laugh every time I see it. All right, keep up the work. Get barrel.
He's totally
It's
right.
a classic.
That was a miss. He took his board out on those rocks.
Totally. And I was thinking we really ought to compile a list of the best board smashes in professional competition. But then I just thought that really verges on inertia material. Like if we released an episode that was like, or an article for Beach Grit, the top 5 board smashes.
It's so
inertia.
inertia.
I mean, we would just, it really is clickbait central too. I don't think we can do it.
No, sorry. We'll let the inertia do it. They can do it.
And we can revisit here verbally, but we just can't put it in print.
And it can't be ranked.
Right, exactly. But Freddie Pease was epic. And
Yeah.
The thing that Freddie Pease reminded me of too, it jogged a memory that I hadn't thought about for a while. Do you remember CJ Hobgood? I don't know where he was.
Hit the rock.
I want to say yes, he does a straight air. He does a straight air and lands and right after landing, he doesn't even look towards shore, wherein there happened to be a rock right in his path. He looks back out because he probably had buddies in the lineup and he starts claiming it. And then the moment he looks back, he actually runs straight into a rock that's not submerged. So his board hits the front of the rock and he lands on the dry part of the rock. And then, of course, the whitewash takes him over. But I mean, it's gnarly.
That is one of my favorite clips of all time.
I mean, I don't know. How did he not get injured on that thing? Because he fully collided with a rock.
I mean, how does Mason Honock get injured? I don't know. Those guys are like cat-like in how they take their falls.
Totally.
They're Vans-like.
It's a marvel.
Yeah.
It's a marvel. And I mean, the amount of times I'm falling while surfing and thinking I'm going to hit my board or get injured or collide with somebody, and you're just like, oh, this is the end of it. And then somehow you don't connect underwater or whatever. It's kind of remarkable.
If I'm surfing like clear water, even if the reef or rock is like 5 feet down, I think I'm going to hit it every single wipeout. I'm like,
for sure,
cringing and waiting for it, even though I probably don't even get close to it.
For sure. All right, we got another listener line call.
David Lee, Chaz, how you boys doing? Drummer Dave checking in here. Hey, I heard you guys talking about on Barrel or Nah, April Fool's jokes. Well, this didn't happen on April Fool's per se, but it is a practical joke that has to do with surfing. So I thought I'd share. Anyway, me and my boy, the Ripper, we're going to go to Hawaii for the summer one year, which we tended to do occasionally. And our other buddy Schroeder wanted to go with us. So we said, okay, Schroed, we got to get you ready though, because Hawaii is different. You got to prepare. So we told him that in Hawaii, when you paddle, the locals, every time they bring their arm forward to take another stroke, they make a shaka and they drag their pinky through the water every time. Right hand, left hand, over and over again. Make the shaka, drag the pinky through the water. So the funny part wasn't when he got there and realized we were full of shit. The funny part was the couple of months before going on the trip, him practicing all around the Huntington Beach area every day, dragging that pinky through the water with a shaka. It was good fun. And on a little side note, you know, if you take your buddy's surfboard and you take a bar of Dove soap and give it a wax job, it looks just like surf wax. And when they jump in the water and that soap gets activated, the board just shoots out from under them. They can't even keep on their board. They'll be off the board using their fingernails trying to scratch grooves in the wax. It's pretty fucked up, but it's damn funny. They have to basically strip their wax job after that to start again. But, you know, when you take your buddy on a surf trip with you, you got to give him a little hazing, a little introduction. All right, boys, as always, keep up the work. And, of course, bon voyage.
Drummer Dave is the best. Shroud and the Ripper should be a new CBS sitcom, like a real 80s style sitcom.
Totally. I mean, the reason I wanted to play that call was just to hear him talk about Shroud. So once he said, so anyways, we told my buddy Shroud, I was like, dude, we're playing this. I don't care where this goes. Shroud and the Ripper. And Drummer Dave, by the way. It's not just Shroud and the Ripper. Drummer Dave's there as well. In Shroud and the Ripper, the sitcom. Yeah, Drummer Dave is like one of the main characters. They all three pal around, getting up to no good. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea that telling him to paddle with the pinky, he's going to realize that's bull crap because nobody could do that. I think the joke actually works if you just tell them that you have to make the shaka while they're paddling, while their hands in the air. Yeah. I could see somebody falling for that and actually doing it. Totally. Great. It's hilarious. Do you have any practical jokes planned for tomorrow? Any April Fools ready to go? No, I really want to. I don't take the time. I don't have the creativity, I think, is what it is. Yeah. I remember Kelly Slater announced his leaving Quicksilver on April 1st.
Yep, he sure did.
That was so epic. I for sure thought that was it. Like, I'm like, man, this guy, he's so crafty and witty. Like, this is a good April Fool's joke. Turned out to be not an April Fool's joke at all.
Imagine,
but I thought that was a good one.
Imagine how much money Quicksilver paid Kelly over the years and what they did for him. Like I would say Quicksilver did more for Kelly than any brand has done for any surfer ever in the history of the world, right?
I don't know. I mean, even if that's true, you could make the argument that he did more for a brand than any
of course
athlete's ever done for a brand.
Of course. But it was like they did a ton for him. So his like, not only did he kick them when they were down, when he left, like they really needed him then, and he just kicked them right in the balls and did it on April Fools to make it even worse. Like I don't know why he thought, okay, this company that has supported me my whole career, I don't want to go out graciously. I want to go out mocking them.
Thunder Thief.
Yep. Kelly Slater.
We talked about it. He's the ultimate Thunder Thief. The day after Adriano wins the world title, he announces the wave pool to the world.
Yep.
You know, nobody even remembers that Adriano won a world title at this point.
No.
All right. So we talked about head injury advice last week, and boy, did I get a lot of feedback about that. Here we go.
Hello. The advice for listeners from Chaz to questions seeking medical advice after a head injury is totally misguided and frankly dangerous and irresponsible. More than several years ago, a friend's son hit his head while surfing on Oahu's South Shore. He came home feeling a bit unwell, but like your surf ads caller, was fine enough. He went to bed that night, never woke up. All head injuries are potentially serious and should be properly evaluated by medical professionals, not surf journalists. I'm no neurologist, but I'm confident that one will call in with proper advice. Furthermore, I'm no cardiologist, but I would recommend that Chaz get that irregular heartbeat issue checked out. And yes, to David's comment, had I not gotten that new tiny mole checked out, I wouldn't be around to surf today. It was a melanoma. My doctor saved my life. Thank you.
How do you argue with that?
I guess, he's right. He's right. Go check yourself out, everyone. We're saving lives here. We're all about saving lives.
I totally expected you to double down and tell him not to. But when somebody says that their friend's son didn't wake up, I mean, that's yikes. That's the worst possible scenario you could imagine.
My heart is back good. I'm not stressed anymore. So I'm running like a well-oiled machine.
Are you literally running?
Yeah. Oh man.
You haven't given that up yet?
No. And not only that, I've been running the same shoes forever, like since I started running, and they were like 2 years old to begin with. And whatever. Go run. And my goal, remember, was the 4-minute mile. Yeah. Which I realized was totally insane. And somebody said you could maybe get, I think it was JP Curry said, like, you're not even going to be able to get 6-minute mile. And then but then made it like, I think a bet that I would stop writing about Whoop if I got a 5-minute mile, or unless I did get a 5-minute mile. And so anyway, struggle, like, runs, couldn't get below 7, not even close to below 7. Went and got a new pair of shoes, cheap pair of Nikes. Went a little bit better than my normal pace, but I wasn't thinking much. And blew past 6. I was like 5:30. So I'm going to get down to a 5-minute mile, no problem. And then
just because of the pair of shoes?
I did not know that shoes changed your performance that much.
Yeah. Well, can I recommend a shoe to you?
Yes, please.
I've got 2 pairs. The Hoka One. They're ugly as could possibly be. They only make ugly shoes, and all the colorways are terrible, but these are the best shoes that I've ever worn for running.
Like comfortable and springy?
incredibly. And you go on their website and they have different models that show you how springy, like some are more springy than others. These have the massive, massive soles. So they're super plush and comfortable, but not necessarily the most mobility. So I also have this pair for mobility. So there's much less padding. They've got some grip. Yeah, this is also Hoka, same brand. This one's lighter weight. So I use these for trail running because they've got the gription on the bottom and you need more mobility on the trail because you're kind of going left, right, all that sort of thing. So if I'm running streets, I wear the Bondi 6, which is just super fat and plush, comfy, and on the trail, lightweight, more mobility.
Let's get Hoka on as a sponsor.
I would love that. And if you talk to CJ Hobgood, he'll recommend Ultra, and he's tried Hoka's, Asics, like all of them, and he said Ultra is the best for him. But the reality is everybody has different feet, and so you kind of have to find your best fit. But the Hokas to me were like a full-on game changer. I used to have this little twinge of pain in my right knee, and that completely went away. Like game changer, super comfortable.
Man, I'm going to go wander through the primrose garden of new running shoes now. I did not know.
Go to hokaoneone.com. It looks like Hoka 1-1, and you'll waste an afternoon fantasizing.
Are they a Hawaiian brand?
French.
Nice. Got me.
Yeah. Okay. We got one more head injury call.
David, Chaz, what's up? This is Mackenzie from Oahu. I'm calling in about the listener who hit their head and is debating getting it checked out. I didn't hit my head, but I have another experience that I want to share that people might find interesting. A few years ago now, mind you, I was 29 at the time. I'd surf, and every once in a while I'd be a little hard to breathe, and I'd have these shoulder cramps. And me having past skateboard injuries, I told myself it's just my broken collarbone cramping up. Kind of ignored it for a while. My wife kept telling me to get it checked out. One day I surfed a big south swell, went to work, was feeling it again. Next thing you know, I get sick and I start throwing up and I can't stop. I wanted to drive home and rest, but my coworkers insisted that she come pick me up. So she came to get me. I made her take me home so I could try to rest. After resting and it not getting any better, she takes me to the hospital. They checked me out. Turns out I have 100% block in my LAD artery, otherwise known as a widowmaker heart attack, at 29. Who would have thought, huh? So, I probably should have listened to my wife. So I went through some surgeries, got that fixed. Then they wanted to put a defibrillator in my heart. I wanted to time it around when the waves are going to be good and when it's not, and I ended up putting it off for a few years. And just this past year, I got sick again. Sure enough, I had another heart incident. Yeah, didn't listen to the wife again. Now I put the defibrillator in, and at least if anything happens while I'm surfing, it'll shock me back to life. So, something to keep in mind. Right on, boys. Keep up the work. Talk to you later.
Listen to your wife. That's the advice, I think.
Listen to your wife. Take care of your health. Do not listen to me when it comes to health-related things. All fashion, all relationship is pretty much 100%, 99% accurate. Health, don't do it.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I used to play like adult basket, like a men's league basketball. And the guys that I play with, we would get together and practice at least one night a week, just casual games at the park and stuff. And one of the guys left completely without saying goodbye. We were just in the middle of playing around, and like 5 minutes go by and I'm like, where'd Jack go? I'm like, oh, well, I guess he had to bail. Just didn't say goodbye, whatever. Come to find out, I talked to him a few days later. He started feeling these weird heart palpitations while he was on the court. So he just got in his car and left, and he was going to go home and like assess it with his wife. And he was at a particular stoplight where home was on the left and the hospital was on the right. And he just goes, man, should I go home or should I just go get this checked out first? And he works in the medical field. And so he knew to err on the side of caution. So he turned right and went to the hospital. and it was that Widowmaker thing. And they admitted him instantly, got him on a table, and watched this clot traveling through an artery towards his heart while he was on the table. And they're like, if you had not been on the table at this moment for us to like open up that artery or whatever, it would have lodged in your heart. You would have died instantly.
Wow.
So had you made that left-hand turn at the light, you would have either died in front of your wife or in the car. Like, it was a life-changing decision. So he's become a whole new man. That was probably 10 years ago now. It was like he instantly started eating differently, dropped 40 pounds, gets exercise all the time, because it was that big of a shock to his system.
Do the right thing, people.
Yeah. Listen to your wife, most importantly. Before we go to commercial, we should comment on Joel Tudor. Your article was entitled "Suspended Champion Joel Tudor Wins Hot War Against the WSL as 3-Stop Longboard Tour Announced for the 2022 season."
Joel Tudor victorious at the end.
Was he
self-sacrifice? Yeah, they were going to cut it. They were fully going to cut it, I feel. I mean, it's all rumored, but they were going to cut it down to 1 stop and that'd be it, right? Joel made a huge stink about it, and so forced them to actually deal with it. And lo and behold, 3 stops. I don't know how it's not a unmitigated victory for Joel Tudor, save the fact that he's still suspended.
Well, the reason why I don't see it as an unmitigated win is, does he want to go surf Manly? Does he want to go surf Huntington? Like, the WSL negotiated to his demands, but they didn't really give him what he wants. Joel kind of bent and compromised what he was asking for to meet somewhere that nobody actually gets what they want, including us, the viewers.
Well, I think it's a start. And I think that now that it's established 3, I would imagine that, because it's in partnership with Vans and Duct Tape as well, some of it, right? Are all stops or just?
I think so.
Yeah. So like, if I was Joel, I would think, okay, we won the battle, I suppose. To win the war, they're going to have to get a bunch of people to watch those events, I would imagine. And so like, they're all going to have to double down on, hey, let's get these things publicized. Otherwise, the World Surf League will come back and say, hey, nobody watches these. We're done. We gave you another shot. We're done.
I think that's where we're going to be at next year, having this exact same conversation. They got Joel to shut up. By the way, Vans is the big winner here. Vans saw an opportunity to buy something when it was cheap, like basically patch the hole. Like, man, WSL just needs a little bit of money. We can get our world champ. We can probably get him another title if he gets to compete in these events. So let's go ahead and do all that because it serves our interest. So bravo to them, and bravo to them for spending money in the surf space once again.
The answer to everything.
Totally. But the WSL, as they always do, does a half-assed version. So nobody's watching that Sydney Surf comp anyways. So no, they won't watch the longboard division. I would imagine fewer people than ever are watching the US Open year after year. So fewer people are going to be watching that. So at the end of the year, they'll run the numbers and go, yeah, we didn't get enough viewership. And the steam is going to be out of Joel Tudor's tank at that point too. So he's not going to do round 2 of this online, whatever rant. And so we're going to end up back here next year.
Yeah. I mean, could be right, but for now, win for Joel.
Chalk it as a W for Joel.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to commercial and then we will come back with Barrel or Not. All right, Chaz, today's show is brought to you by, of course, athleticgreens.com/surf.
The thing that gets me out of bed in the morning ain't coffee anymore. It is a nice shaker, 1 scoop of Athletic Greens and 8 ounces of water. Is it 8 ounces?
I do 8 ounces. You can do however much you want.
Yeah, I if I'm thirsty, I do a little more sometimes.
Well, let me tell you what, I feel great when I have it, but often you don't know the sour without the sweet. And this weekend, we went to go visit my parents in the desert and did not bring the travel packs of AG1 with me. We slept under air conditioning. So I think that kind of started the runny nose situation. We've come home 4 days later. All three of us are sick. Lauren's sick. I'm sick. The baby's sick. And it's like, son of a gun. I went 3 days without AG1. Little did I know it was blocking all of this stuff that it was protecting me all along. And I didn't have gratitude for it. And then I go 3 days without it. And here I am suffering.
Yep. It gives your body what it needs. It gives your body
everything,
minerals and nutrients, organic plant material. Yeah, just think, if you would have done that, if you would have taken your travel packs, you would have protected your family.
I feel like a sucker.
Protect your family. You should.
Feel like a full-on sucker. Well, I feel like 98% of our listeners are already on the AG1 program. So for the 2% who are not, go to athleticgreens.com/surf, fortify your immune system, find optimal health and nutrition. You'll get travel packs for free. You'll get a year's supply of vitamin D for free, and you will support our work here. athleticgreens.com/surf. All right, Chaz, we're back for Barrel or Nah. This
Real
is
quick,
a Zoltan. Yeah.
Before we get to Barrel or Nah, I was, guess who blew it? Guess who full on blew it? No, I rarely blow it. Devin Stinkin' Howard blew it. Absolutely blew it. Got emailed this morning a rundown of a new bodyboard world tour it's either happened or is happening or was before happening. Bodyboard world tour. Guess what it is? Mixed divisions, whole thing.
Gender fluid divisions.
Gender open divisions. Devin could have been the first. Now, bodyboarders, for the last, truly, I'm going to say for the last 15 years, bodyboarders have been the most progressive of our brethren, correct? They're the ones who went and discovered that, oh, you could actually surf slabs, right? They're the ones who are pioneering new spots, different spots, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, I suppose Devin could have beat him to the punch here, but was slow. And now progressive once again, bodyboarders are gender fluid.
Freaking Devin.
Yep.
I don't follow bodyboarding enough to know, but is there a advantage for one gender over the other?
I don't either, but now I'm going to. I would imagine that, men could maybe kick a little harder to get into waves, have stronger leg muscles, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. Might be hearsay.
I mean, there is a kind of your arm maneuvering using your torso and your upper body strength, and men have more upper body strength. But I would imagine you could probably, given women's hips and lower leg power, that they could actually adapt the sport to benefit them. There's probably maneuvers that you could do as a woman that maybe males would have a harder time doing.
Excited to see it. Bodyboard fan.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm going to have to start following bodyboarding.
Yeah.
What was I? Oh yeah. In other breaking news, the Mavericks Invitational is scheduled to take place under new management. The waiting period starts November 2022, and they're doing, quote, actual equality, and it isn't gender open divisions. It is,
but they'll be at the same time.
What's that?
But they'll be out at the same time.
Yeah, they'll be surfing equal number of women, equal number of men on the same day, obviously for the same swell, and equal prize purse too.
Great, good on them. So I'm excited to see it not run for another year.
Exactly. Okay, today's Barrel or Not all is inspired by Zoltan Torkos.
How beautiful is that film?
I thought it was excellent. So Inherent Bummer produced a film that Red Bull Media House distributed about Zoltan, the surfing magician. And this is somebody who has been on the fringe of surfing, rightly or wrongly, which we can discuss. He's a Santa Cruz surfer, the first guy in history to land a kickflip on film. And Volcom put out call to see who could do the first kickflip on film for $10,000. This was a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago. And Zoltan, who had been practicing this trip for a long time, landed it. And then they rescinded the 10K.
It was so
They're
rude.
like, no, yeah,
Meant
like,
to be above the
oh,
lip.
you landed it, but it wasn't off the lip.
Yeah.
And it was more of an ollie. And then the backlash from the internet, of course, bullied Volcom into rescinding the recension or whatever. And they then ended up paying him the $10,000. And he's since landed them off of the lip and everything. But the kickflip is Sultan's gift to surfing. So barrel or nah, number one, kickflipping a surfboard.
No barrel. Unless it's Zoltan Torkos, it is no barrel. There's certain things, like there is a lot of fluidity amongst snow, skate, and surf, correct?
Yes.
Some moves go back and some moves go forth, and oftentimes those look beautiful, but there are certain things in each that belong only in that, right? It's silly to kickflipping a skateboard is not necessarily functional, but there's it's beauty and function combined. Kickflipping a surfboard, there's no function to it. So yeah, to me, it's a not, unless it's Zoltan who has committed his life to it, then it's a full barrel. But if Julian Wilson was out trying to kickflip or did kickflip, it'd be dumb.
Well, there'd be no way to link it into the ride to like add value to the ride. It's always like, I guess the purest form of the surfing act is like leaning into a bottom turn, leaning into a carve, finding trim. And all of that is fluidity between the ocean's energy and propelling the surfboard. And so once you break that fluidity, I think it just becomes novelty. The chop hop lands exactly in that. An air off the lip doesn't break the fluidity because it's all in that same trajectory. So that's where this goes kind of wrong for me. I have full respect for Zoltan, what he does. It's really kind of interesting to watch and it's cool to see him do it, but it's still novelty to me.
And the board is just too long. Like a skateboard looks good flipping because of its size. A surfboard is way too huge. Even the shortest shortboard looks too big when it's flipping.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, to me, I forgot what I was going to say. Shoot. All right. I'll come back to it. But we're both going nah.
Yeah.
We're both going nah. Okay. Also Zoltan related, barrel or nah, magic.
Oh man. I'm going to say nah for me, but I love was it last week? Last week, driving up to Hollywood, have you ever been to the Magic Castle? Have we talked about that?
No. We've talked about it. I've never been.
Yeah. So I've been to the Magic Castle. It is stuffed with so many weirdos. And I feel about Magic exactly like I feel about Dungeons and Dragons. Never played it, don't want to play it, but love that there's a cadre of full-on weirdos who that's their world. That's what I love. I love that Magic exists. I love that weirdos are into it. I guess it's rude to call them weirdos. I guess I love that a part of the population really loves that. Zoltan is the exact person too who I love, who likes Magic, right? He is such a clear beating to the march of his own drummer, but the same drummer that all magicians march to.
Totally.
And I love that exists. It's just not for me.
So barrel or nah?
Barrel. Full barrel.
Okay.
Because if I say nah, then it's rude for them.
Right. Well, it is funny. I love everything about Zoltan. I just don't love anything that he's doing.
Yeah.
Strangely. And I love that he's doing it, but it's no, don't want to do a kickflip. Don't really want to do Magic as an adult, especially to be proficient at Magic. You have to spend so much time doing it. It's really a dedication of a life.
I don't even want to see Magic as an adult, to be honest. Like David Copperfield's crazy tricks and all that just annoy me because I can't figure out how he does them. And so I'm not blown away. I'm not, wow, even though there is an element to that, of the great, Vegas style musicians, there's an element of how he does that. But then I'm just oh man, I don't want to use 1 ounce of my mind to think how he's doing that.
I know.
And I'm always like totally wrong. Like I am that's the thing too. When you watch a Netflix special or whatever on, how the trick is done kind of thing, it totally strips away any of the greatness to it. And then you're just like, oh, now not only am I way too dumb to do it, I'm way too dumb to even figure out how this was done, even though it's pretty simple.
Well, that's exactly it. Is that person spent 3 years figuring out how to deceive you. And so I'm watching it going, congratulations, you did it. But it would require me spending a long time to figure out how you deceived me. And that's not worth my time. So if magic was real, I'd be very, very interested. I'm very interested to find out if ghosts are real, if UFOs are real. But magic, we all know, is not real. And so it's just a matter of who wants to spend more time trying to deceive or figuring out the deception. You win. You want to spend your whole life doing it. And I don't. And it's not that entertaining. Like I'd rather go watch a musician than a magician,
But
so that's all that it comes down to.
I am full barrel that it exists for the community.
I agree. Like for Zoltan to start off that whole documentary with I come from a family of magicians. I was like, awesome. I am all into this. This is amazing.
Yep.
So, okay. I remember what I was going to say about the kickflip. It is akin to experimental music, like Yoko Ono's music, where there is some technical proficiency to what he's doing. Of course there is, and there probably is to experimental music. Yeah. But music has it's based in harmony. And so whatever variation, jazz, rap, rock and roll, it has to fit the initial conceit of being harmonious so that the sounds integrate with your body and your vibrations and your ears and all that sort of thing harmoniously. And I feel like Zoltan's is not. Like the kickflip thing, it's not harmonious with the way that surfing is fundamentally founded, It's experimental. It's Yoko Ono screaming.
Yeah, love it.
So okay, final barrel or not, also Zoltan based, the rat tail.
Again, absolute nah, except for on Zoltan. It looked perfect on him. He looked so good. He looked exactly right. Except I know why it looks good. So I'm gonna say rat tail is good. I'll give it a barrel if you're not doing it ironically. Because Zoltan was legitimately wearing a rat tail, right? Like that was his hairstyle. Looked good on him. He it wasn't like, oh, look at that rat tail. You noticed it, but it was part of the whole package. So if you can pull off a rat tail, anybody in the Midwest or anywhere, I suppose, who's wearing a rat tail legitimately, more power to you. I will barrel you. The second you think, I'm going to do a rat tail, remember, that's pretty cool. Then you're done because it's like Kelly Slater wearing an awkward tuxedo. You are aware of it. Therefore is lame.
Kelly looked less comfortable in a tuxedo than Zoltan looks in a rat tail.
By far. Zoltan looked perfect in a rat tail.
If you're doing kickflips on a surfboard, magic is a career. The rat tail is the right choice of hairstyle. And I would go further. There's no harder hairstyle to pull off on the planet. A mullet's easier to pull off. A mohawk's easier to pull off. The rat tail is the hardest, and he pulls it off.
I mean, who knew that Zoltan, after all these years, I feel we've been aware of Zoltan Torkos for decades. Who knew that he was one big barrel?
Who knew? And in a class all his own too. There's nobody else.
Nope.
Because we're saying no basically to everything except he defies our own judgment.
Completely. Zoltan he's a great little antidote to barrel or no, where you can get so caught up in yes and no on things, but then a guy like Zoltan comes around and you're like, oh, yes on everything I said no to, except only in this case here.
I want to hang out with him after watching that.
Yep. Big, huge props to Inherent Bummer, to Travis Foray and the boys for that one, because that was phenomenal, I thought.
I really enjoyed it. I've thought about doing a podcast with him over the years, or people have recommended it. And I was always like, not the top of my list for whatever reason. And after watching that, I'm like, man, I fully dropped the ball. He is so interesting. He had lots to say. His backstory is fascinating. The other addendum to the rat tail thing, yes to everything you said. Also, you have to be over 25 years old to rock it. Because when I see kids walking around with a rat tail, I'm highly judgmental of their parents.
Could be, except what if you saw kids walking around with a rat tail at the country fair in Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
Highly judgmental of those.
Really?
Parents.
Don't you think, oh, this is like parents thought they're cutting their kids' hair rad. They're not thinking we're doing an ironic send up on 80s culture.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that is all I've got for today's show, Chaz. What else? You got anything else?
I think nothing else.
Well, it's been a great show. So, of course, beachgrit.com, at Surf Journalist, and of course, at Surf Splendor. And will we be in person next week or via Zoom?
Definitely in person next week.
Okay, cool. I will make sure that I'm available on Thursday. And until then, Chaz.
Bon voyage.